Why no one painted the Last Supper like this before Leonardo da Vinci. Before Leonardo da Vinci, no one painted the Last Supper like this. Artists had depicted the scene for centuries, but they avoided the most dangerous moment. Leonardo chose the exact second when Christ says, "One of you will betray me," not the ritual, not the calm, but the emotional explosion that follows. This single choice changed religious painting forever. Before Leonardo, the Last Supper had been painted for centuries, but almost always in the same way. In Byzantine and medieval traditions, the scene focused on symbolism, not psychology. Christ appeared distant and divine, often with a halo, sometimes even duplicated in Eucharistic scenes, emphasizing ritual rather than human presence. A clear example is the 6th century mosaic in Sant'Apollinare Nuovo in Ravenna. Christ sits calmly, monumental, and untouchable, while the apostles form a quiet, ordered semicircle around the table. There is no shock, no tension, no emotional rupture. In medieval art, the focus shifted even further toward doctrine. The Last Supper often became an image of the Eucharist itself, sometimes excluding Judas entirely, sometimes replacing him with the Apostle Paul. The scene was meant to explain theology, not to explore human reaction. Even in early Renaissance interpretations, emotion remained restrained. In Andrea del Castagno's Last Supper in Florence, the apostles appear solemn and deeply saddened, but still controlled. Judas is clearly separated, placed alone on the opposite side of the table, visually marked as the traitor. Most artists followed this rule: isolate Judas to explain the story. Leonardo broke that rule. He chose not to clarify, but to complicate. He asked not what happened, but what it felt like when the words were spoken. When Christ speaks, the room fractures. Fear, shock, anger, denial, grief, disbelief. The apostles break into groups of 3, each reacting differently. Only Christ remains still. His calm forms a stark contrast to the chaos around him. He already knows his fate and accepts it. This emotional tension is the true subject of the painting. Despite the storm of emotion, the painting feels balanced. That's not accidental. Leonardo uses a strict, almost mathematical composition. Christ sits at the exact center. The vanishing point lies at the bridge of his nose. His body forms a triangle, a symbol of stability and sacrifice. Behind him, 3 windows create a subtle halo of light, not a painted halo, but a natural one. Christ is human, mortal, yet monumental. Leonardo does something no one expected. He does not isolate Judas. Judas sits at the same table, wears similar colors, belongs to the same group. He spills salt, clutches a small bag, the silver, leans forward, tense and defensive. Leonardo shows Judas not as a monster, but as a man who was once chosen, and is now destroying that calling. This is one of the most unsettling aspects of the painting. The mural was painted in the refectory of the monastery of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan. As the monks ate, they sat across from Christ and the apostles. The painting turns every viewer into a participant. Christ's presence extends beyond the wall, a silent invitation. Everyone is included. Disciples, sinners, even betrayers. All are equal before God. Technically, the Last Supper is not a true fresco. Leonardo refused to work on wet plaster. He wanted time, he wanted control, he wanted detail. So he painted on dry plaster using an experimental technique. The result was disastrous. The painting began deteriorating almost immediately within Leonardo's lifetime. Over the centuries, people tried to save it, often making things worse. At one point, restorers attempted to remove the painting from the wall, only to realize it wasn't a fresco at all. It couldn't be detached without destroying it. Others repainted entire sections, changing faces, expressions, even gestures, not restoring Leonardo but replacing him. During the Napoleonic Wars, the refectory was used as a stable. Later, during World War II, the monastery was heavily bombed. The walls around the painting collapsed. Only sandbags and scaffolding saved it from complete destruction. By the 20th century, the Last Supper was barely recognizable. Only then did conservators finally understand that the goal was not to repaint, but to preserve what remained. The most careful restoration took over 20 years. Layer by layer, later editions were removed. What emerged was fragile, incomplete, faded, but closer to Leonardo's original vision than anyone had seen in centuries. What we see today is not the painting Leonardo created, but the painting that survived. And perhaps that is the true miracle. Leonardo proved something essential, that tradition can be broken, that risk is part of creation, that art becomes eternal not by following rules, but by daring to do what no one has done before. He chose emotion over perfection. human truth over sacred distance. And that is why this image still speaks to us. The Last Supper is not about betrayal alone. It is about the moment when faith, fear, love, and doubt exist at the same table.